The wife is going on a bicycle when the time of childbirth arrives. She calls her husband. The husband is romancing with his mother-in-law. The husband answers the phone. The wife says, "Darling, the time of childbirth has come. Take me to the hospital." The husband says, "I am in an interview. I'll come later." He hangs up. The mother-in-law asks, "Whose call was that?" The husband says, "It was your daughter. She said your granddaughter is about to be born." The wife screams in pain. A man lifts her and takes her to the hospital. A little later, the wife says, "Thank you. You brought me to the hospital on time." The man says, "Where is your husband?" The husband arrives and asks, "Who is this man?" The wife says, "With his help I came to the hospital." The husband says, "He should not stay here any longer." The man leaves. The husband holds the baby girl and says, "She is as beautiful as you." The next day, the wife says, "Mother, look at my daughter." The mother-in-law says, "I am not feeling well." The wife says, "Now I will get a little relief." The mother-in-law says, "Yes, daughter, pregnancy is a very difficult stage." The wife says, "Please cook food for me." The husband says, "I don't know how to cook." The wife asks, "Did you get a job?" The mother-in-law says, "My son-in-law did not get a job." The husband says, "Darling, don't worry, I will take care of your mother and daughter at home. You continue working." The mother-in-law says, "Give me some money, I need to buy medicine." The wife gives her money. The next day, the wife says, "Darling, I have prepared milk for the whole day. Just keep feeding the baby on time." The husband says, "Don't worry, I will handle everything." The wife leaves. A few minutes later, the mother-in-law comes wearing short clothes and says, "Darling, what are you busy with?" The husband says, "Your daughter has left the baby in my care." The mother-in-law says, "We should take advantage of this opportunity because my daughter will come late." The husband lays the baby on the sofa and goes upstairs with the mother-in-law. In the evening, the wife returns home, picks up the baby from the sofa, and says, "Why was the baby alone?" The husband says, "Your mother felt unwell, so I went upstairs." The wife says, "Thank you. You also take care of my mother." The husband says, "I am very hungry. Let's order some food." The wife says, "I will cook myself." A few minutes later, the husband comes to the mother-in-law's room. The mother-in-law says, "Get rid of this baby soon." The husband says, "Yes, we will dispose of her very soon." The next day, the wife gives instructions for the baby's care and goes to work. The husband and his mother-in-law take the baby to a buyer. The buyer pays money and takes the baby. At that moment, the wife arrives with the police, takes the baby back from the buyer, and says, "Your plan has failed." A few days earlier, the neighbor was passing in front of the house. The husband and his mother-in-law were kissing each other on the first floor. The neighbor saw this and said, "Both of them are deceiving the wife together." The husband and mother-in-law come near the main gate. The neighbor records their video. The mother-in-law says, "We will sell the baby and earn money." The husband says, "That is a good idea." At that moment, the husband's phone rings. He picks it up and says, "Okay, tomorrow we will give you the baby. You prepare the money." After the call ends, the mother-in-law says, "Now we will enjoy with this money." The husband and mother-in-law leave. The neighbor sends the video to the wife. The wife says, "My mother and my husband are cheaters." The wife calls the police. The policeman says, "On the charge of selling a baby and fraud, you are under arrest." The mother-in-law says, "Daughter, forgive me." The wife says, "Don't call me daughter." The police take them away. The wife says, "It is your favor that you informed me on time and saved my baby." The neighbor says, "You are very kind-hearted and hardworking. May God always protect your daughter."